harassing the police every single day.
Lawsuit goes forward against Northport cops. By Frank DeFury, staff writer 7 minutes ago. Tampa. A lawsuit against 6 Northport police officers will go before a jury. Each of the 6 defendants will face the trial with their own attorney, and without the city of Northport as a co-defendant. The lawsuit in question, Poulins v. Bush, was filed in June 2021 by Matthew Poulin in the U.S. Middle District of Florida. Poulin was arrested by the Northport Police Department in 2017 after a neighbor reported he had broken into her home while under the influence of alcohol. When officers confronted him outside, according to authorities, Poulin resisted arrest. Tasers and a K-9 were deployed to place him under arrest, officers said. Poulin argues he was passively resisting and that the tasers and the K-9 represented excessive force. Poulin was convicted of resisting arrest without violence and possession of a firearm as a convicted felon. Sarasota County Court documents indicate prosecutors did not pursue other charges from that case, such as battery against a first responder and striking a police dog. He was ultimately sentenced to 8 years in prison, and is incarcerated at Sumter Correctional Institution in Sumter County. Poulin later launched his lawsuit against 6 individual officers and the city of Northport. 2 of the officers, Keith Bush and Chad Walker, were the initial responding officers on the call that led to his arrest, while the remaining 4 officers, Matthew Legars, John Hedeberg, Stephen Cambria, and John Contorno, arrived later to provide support. Poulin's civil complaint alleged Walker tackled him as he was drunkenly walking away and used a taser on him without cause. He alleged Bush authorized Walker to allow a K-9 named Dutch to bite him on his right arm, which has since lost a notable amount of muscle and skin. Poulin's complaint alleged a failure to stop these actions by the other 4 officers, who were surrounding Poulin when the police dog was released. In their response to Poulin's complaint, the officers alleged that Poulin had pushed Walker and that all measures taken were to subdue and detain a belligerent suspect. The complaint also alleged that the city of Northport allowed a culture of permissibility with allegations of force against the K-9 unit in general. All defendants subsequently filed motions for summary judgments. The officers argued that their actions were defensibly under qualified immunity, while the city argued that there was no basis for alleging a culture of acceptance for complaints of excessive force. U.S. District Court Judge William F. Young ultimately granted a summary judgment in favor of the defendants on January 13 regarding the use of tasers. Young also granted the city's motion based on a lack of solid evidence for a pattern of acceptance. While Poulin's attorney cited previous lawsuits against Bush for excessive force involving a K-9 and the resulting media coverage, Young ruled the presence of accusations did not automatically rise to the level of proven behavior and toleration of that behavior. With the summary judgment in favor of the city, Northport was effectively severed from the case as a defendant. However, Young did uphold the preliminary case for the complaint regarding the use of a K-9 and the failure of the officers to act. Disposing of plaintiff's failure to intervene claims at the summary judgment stage would therefore be inappropriate, Young wrote in his decision. They will instead be entrusted to the jury as trier of fact. No date for a trial has been set yet. On the ground while OFC Bush was continuously giving him loud, verbal commands. Along with OFC Bush, I gave the defendant loud, verbal commands to roll over on his stomach and to place his hands behind his back. The defendant then replied, "Fuck you." At that time, OFC Bush and I approached the defendant to attempt to place him into handcuffs. The defendant was yelling, rolling around, and not responding to any verbal commands. At that time, OFC Walker left from the struggle and retrieved K-9 Dutch from his patrol vehicle and brought Dutch to where the defendant was. OFC Walker gave verbal commands to Dutch to apprehend the defendant, which was successful. The defendant attempted to choke Dutch in the process. The defendant was still shoving Officers off of him and trying to get away by scurrying around on the ground, not allowing himself to be handcuffed. The defendant was yelling and cursing throughout the incident. The defendant was trying kick officers and grab officer's hands. Eventually, the defendant was placed into handcuffs. Officer with violence and offense against a police dog. These crimes are described in F.S.S 784.07, 2B, 843.01, 843.19, 3. These crimes did occur in the city of Northport, Sarasota County, Florida.
Policing the police every single day.
Roll over! Roll over! Good stuff. Good. Good.